Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel and welcome for the first time to the Great Plains Wildlife Reserve here in the US of A. The Great Plains. Somewhere in the middle of the United States. I haven't decided on a specific state as it's not really important to the narrative. What it is big, flat, and grassy. And more importantly, it doesn't snow, or at least not often. Don't worry, we will do more sculpted maps in the future, but frankly, I needed a break from the hills. I've got carves like a ship's pistons, but I would love to get back to basics and put more into habitat design rather than how I'm going to work with the terrain and get from one habitat to the next. This is our own zoo, rather than something like the Trondheim National Park, which, well, obviously it's a national park. So we technically have no restrictions here, but we are new to the continent, so the plan is similar to the Highland Reserve. We'll take local wildlife, or at the very least easily obtained animals, and create a local wildlife sanctuary. Although the animals here will be quite a bit more interesting as Great Britain has hunted most of their predators off the island. We are of course starting effectively from scratch though, almost. We have a lot more pull with zoos now, and some contacts in Greenland and Canada thanks to our winter wonderland. But our starting capital is the same, which makes today's video slightly more unnecessary. If you've been following the Ultimate Keeper series, you'll know by now that I don't do builds that don't include animals, or I don't make videos for them at least. They bore me a little bit to watch when other people make them, and I find it hard to focus when making my own. So, with that being said, strap in for an entrance build. That really built it up for you, didn't it? I have cheesed it a bit by adding the hairy scorpions and red-kneed tarantulas, so there are animals included, but don't be fooled. This is a guest services video to kick off the new zoo. This may be the last time you see one of these, so enjoy it while you can. Let's catch up with the plan for this building, and then we can talk a little bit about some of the changes to the videos in this leg of the series. As much as people tend to complain about the pathing in Planet Zoo, I usually don't have many issues with it. That was until today. I wanted to have the main entrance building off the ground a bit, just to add a slight level change as you exit the entrance building to the rest of the zoo. I think a lot of old American buildings were built a bit like this too, or something I see in TV shows at least. There's usually some sort of crawl space underneath the house where raccoons or possums find their way in and result in some sort of comedy conclusion. We don't tend to have this sort of thing, or basements really in general, in UK homes. There's probably logic to it, but that's not the reason I did it if there is, although if it's a clever reason I am willing to take credit. The problem was not the raised path, however. It was connecting the raised path to the lower ground path consistently at each point of the building. I have given this quite a harsh cut to get it to as short a video as possible, so you'll just have to take my word for it. There were many attempts, making paths that were ripped up and redone, and many tantrums from a grown man who, let's be honest, needed a nap. Not my proudest endeavour, but nobody is immune to tired frustration. Mercifully, I did end up getting the pathing I wanted. We have a long enclosed building, which will have the ticket sales on one end and a little gift shop at the other, and a little deck area, which will one day overlook a pasture for some wee beasties. We've also got this large open area with a soft dirt or sand, which will be the main courtyard and hopefully ease some of the congestion that will inevitably build up later in the game. I'm trying to factor in and avoid the scenario we had in Trondheim at the bridge. No doubt the small brain guests will find a way to ruin things anyway. The courtyard will also have some food and drink shops to stop the guests from moaning as soon as they arrive. Now, I had a rough idea in my head of what I wanted these buildings to look like, but as with anything I want to build, I was open to the idea that I actually had no idea what I was doing. So, I lined all of the structures out with plaster walls to map out the general shape and work out the height and positioning of everything. A couple of these have changed slightly to account for the guest's negative appeal radius, which popped up a couple of times. I've also changed the roofs of the smaller buildings to make them more like a kind of frontier town, something you'd see in an old western. Those sort of big, flat, tall walls for advertising with small roofs beneath them. You'll see what I mean towards the end. If there's any Americans in the audience, you can tell me if they look accurate or not. The outer buildings are relatively straightforward shops, little casings with staff facilities hidden in the back. They have some nice decoration that we'll see later on, but they're generally simple, using the same building style as the main entrance building, so we won't be seeing much of them today. As I mentioned, I have included a couple of exhibits. One in the entrance building itself for the tarantulas, and two outside for the scorpions, which I was hoping I could make look like one big one, but the glass in between is still a bit noticeable. It's a shame that there's not much to say about the exhibition species. I guess you need to make the building around it the feature part, but it would be nice to have more of the inside changeable, if you know what I mean. We have the different options for additions as we get more research done on the animals, but they're very specific. You can't move things around. You can add plants and rocks yourself, but they wouldn't be interactable, I wouldn't have thought. I don't actually know that, someone might have to tell me. I don't think the animals inside the exhibit will be able to use any plants or rocks that you add, and in that case it just becomes an obstruction. Anyway, before I get into the plan for the entrance building, let me give you a couple of inside scoops for this series. This video is a bit of an outlier, as it follows the Trondheim model, but I want to break up the speed build style that I've started off with. It works fine, but I feel like there's more interesting ways to go about it. I also want to plan out my builds a little bit better, so we're going to start having planning sessions at the beginning of the videos, and then comparisons at the end to see how the final result matches or differs from the initial plan. I would also really like to have more integration for the animals into the series themselves. That could be tricky, as we tend to get through several generations pretty quickly. But I would love to get names from the comments, at least for the first male and female of each species, so I will be looking for suggestions. Be ready. We'll see how these changes work out for this zoo, and I can always adjust for the next one if something isn't working. I really think this will be the best leg of this series. Optimism for all. It's all trial and error at this point, so it's not the end of the world if I get something wrong. It'll just mean I've learned something new, and it's worth it if the final videos end up being more fun or interesting to watch. Returning to the entrance building, the basic idea was to have more of a traditional zoo entrance for a smaller facility, with the ticket sales on one end and a little gift shop at the other. The way I've seen a lot of places set up is with this kind of thing, although usually they are walled off so you only go through the gift shop right as you leave. I don't know what the psychology of that is. Maybe you're more likely to want to pick something up as you're exiting. Maybe it's just so people don't leave their trash in the zoo. Whatever it is, it's usually far too expensive to be worthwhile anyway. Again, I had a bit of a battle with the flooring in the building, mainly where I wanted the shop fronts. I think we should be able to place the counters wherever. Doesn't make much sense to have them hovering, but this is what we've got. The floors are all going to be covered eventually anyway, so it's not the end of the world. Just awkward to work with, you know what I mean? I wanted this entrance to feel very open, but not empty, which is a tricky balance, as the shops take up a lot of space on their own, but if you use the counters, you then need to fill the rest of the space with something either made by yourself or using the shop pieces. On the side of the tickets, I've already got the tarantulas, so I don't want to clutter that area too much to allow access for the guests. I've made a large counter for the staff to work behind, complete with a hatch door to get in and out. They still choose to leap over the counter instead, but I gave them the option. It was a bit of a pain finding pieces narrow enough to use for the countertop, as even the 1 meter squares are a little bit too long. I ended up finding something that works though, so it all worked out. I will also fill the area behind the desk with some small shop pieces for limited purchases, and a couple of tables for probably lost property or staff equipment that they need to pick up at the start of the day, something along those lines. Mainly just so it wasn't a big empty space behind the counter. At the other end of the building, I decided to use the full shop buildings to make it more of a separate section from the ticket sales area. The split flooring is probably enough to accomplish that feel, but I didn't know if it was going to end up like that at the start, so this is what I went for. There's probably a way I could have used the shop floor, the specific shop floor that connects all of the displays, but I was having enough trouble with the paths without adding another obstacle, so they can just be decorative, and we can all use our imaginations to pretend that they're of use. The outdoor decking is very simple, just a nice quaint little seating area for the guests to rest. Eventually with a nice view of something. I haven't got that far yet. I'm slightly concerned that it will end up with people just standing there to look at the animals, but we'll have to cross that bridge when we come to it. Now, the interior of the building was still looking a little bare, so instead of filling it with decorative clutter, I made a mural of sorts. Maybe not a mural, more like an art piece around the tarantula habitat. And while this doesn't fill the space, it does neutralise some of the white walls, which was given a little bit of an unfinished, cold feel. We are definitely way ahead of the video now, but I don't know what to talk about really. It's a building with shops. There are only so many features worth pointing out. At some point, once I have a better idea of where the borders of the zoo will be, I want to add some sort of simple chain link fence around the border, creating more of an enclosed reserve feel, using the entrance as the crossing point. So I didn't do too much in the way of decoration. However, the front was looking a little bit empty, so I've put in some dry grassland foliage, some rocks of course, although far less than what we're used to here, and a couple of trees with set out planting stones, creating a small ring around the base, so that it looks intentional rather than a messy, unkept approach. It should also give a bit of a feel for the kind of look we'll be starting with for this zoo. Kind of a parched grassland, almost deserty but not quite. As we progress, the biome will change and adapt. We'll get some variation throughout, but this sort of dry western town felt right for the entrance area, where all the buildings will be quite compact and close together, and made from affordable materials. And then as we become successful, we can go for bigger and more ambitious projects with more life and vibrance around them. Now, the very last thing you'll see before our lovely scenic shots will be some of the additions to the smaller outer buildings around the courtyard. As I said earlier, I had the thought to make these a little more frontier town. That's cowboys, not game devs. So I've changed the roofs to something broader, more presentary. I've added some small decking at the front for the guests to get some relief from the sun. I've been using the same flooring method throughout, using a black plaster as the base and then adding planks to get more of a full built out deck rather than some pieces of wood on the floor. I think that it looks quite good, and while there's more that could be done to give the effect that I was going for, I think this is a good effort in that direction. I've only seen these sorts of buildings in movies and I use my memory as a reference, so I may be way off. I suppose the final thing for me to point out is the scenic shots themselves. I forgot to record any, so when it came to editing the videos I had to go and quickly make some, which means there may be glimpses of the next couple of episodes in the background. Just ignore those, you'll see them soon enough. And with that, I am officially out of things to say, so I guess I can drop a little bit of behind the scenes on what I'm working on for the channel in the near future. Firstly, I'm making an art lock, which is a Nuzlocke with drawings. That'll be a one-off for now, but I've got a plan for several more similar ones down the line. It's just a lot of work to put these together, so it's coming along slowly. Secondly, I'm working on a Jurassic World Evo 3 campaign. Once I finish that, I'll be turning those into a short series and then potentially doing some videos on that. Unfortunately, the brush tools have taken some of the fun out of the creation, so I don't think it'll be a big series like this zoo one, but still a fun little project. And finally, I am making another farming sim series, or my first proper series on it with more editing and more challenge. So that will start coming out once I get far enough ahead. Of course, we will still be continuing this Planet Zoo series as well, so it's all addition at the moment. So lots to look forward to if you like variety, and more of the same if you just want the zoos. I should probably get to work then, eh? As always, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like if you enjoy the video. I don't know if it helps the channel much, but it cheers me up. If you want to see more, you can subscribe to get the videos suggested to you faster, and that definitely does help the channel. Have a great week, and I'll see you again next time as we really get stuck into this new zoo.
To me, the theme of the song reflects like it's someone who's purpose-driven, who wants to do something and is eager to do it. No matter what happens, no matter what circumstances, kind of evokes some memories in me that I should have a purpose in life and live a purpose-driven life.
That's all that matters. We saw as well that even the people who are working behind this project believe in people for who they are. It's an honor and we thank you a lot for